Welcome to Wizard Team, a Black magical podcast for Black magical stories.
Hi everyone, it's Bayana, Robyn, and Porshèa embarking on a journey through the many fantasy stories written by and about Black people. Currently, we're reading Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston. Yay! Fresh book! Today
New book, who dis?
Today we're discussing chapters 1 through 3 of this esteemed tome.
But first, previously on Amari and the Great Game, Amari excited for another summer at the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs, but when a time freeze freezes the entire Supernatural World Congress, a feat that can only be the work of a magician, she is uninvited from summer camp. While she tries to figure out how to get back, the interim Prime Minister Bane calls for a ban of all unwanteds, supernatural creatures who were once associated with magicians. Meanwhile, Amari reaches out to Cosmo, the steward of the League of Magicians, who wants Amari to take Vladimir's crown and lead the magicians. Amari is hesitant to take the throne, even though it means Cosmo might give it to Dylan Van Helsing instead. Elsie is able to help Amari get back into the Bureau. Harlow, the new director of half-truths and full cover-ups, forces her into a phony press conference. As summer camp starts, Amari has to juggle her new job as a junior agent, learning to control her magician powers, learning the truth about the time freeze, and the Great Game, a tournament to determine whether she or Dylan will be the new leader of the League of Magicians. Time runs out to end the freeze, though. Amari relies on the help of her friends, Elsie, Jaden, and new ally, Laura Van Helsing. Eventually, Amari realizes it was Director Harlow and the wraiths behind the time freeze, but Harlow is able to use her mind control powers to gain power over the Bureau, just as Amari is pulled into the final game. Amari fights Dylan with all she has and nearly wins until Cosmo forces her to let Dylan win by threatening Elsie. Amari is left with only a drop of her magic as the magicians attack the Harlow-controlled Bureau. But things aren't all that bad because her brother Quentin has woken up.
It was
That was a lot. A lot happened in that book.
A lot's going to happen in this book, too.
A lot. I was gonna say even more, maybe.
I don't know if y'all watched the live stream that we had back in August when the book dropped with B.B. Alston, and he was like, "Y'all might be mad at me after." I didn't know how authors say that.
Ooh,
and then I was so like, I'd be like, "Sure," but dang,
crazy. I was trying to get back to, I opened my Amari and the Great Game book, and it literally is like, Elsie, like, wakes up after Amari, like, saved her, and she only has a drop of magic left, and then, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just, like, it stops and, like, starts, like, Despicable Wonders just, like, is, like...
It's like the next day.
Chapter 1, Amari, Elsie, and Jaden are hiding out in a motel. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, it's the next day. It might be the same day.
Something like that. But it's like less than 24 hours.
Yeah. Less than 24 hours. Like, they just, like, we pick right back up where we left off. So Amari, Elsie, and Jaden are hiding in a motel in Atlanta. They're watching news updates about the Vanderbilt Hotel, the front for the Bureau, burning to the ground, and Amari is blaming herself while Elsie and Jaden are trying to make her feel better, but also trying to kind of distract her. It was giving me, I remember this like very vividly. I was in high school during 9/11 and we all got sent home. I don't even know if I went to school that day.
Probably not, because
I don't think I went. I remember my brother. Yeah. My brother called us like in the middle of the day, early morning or whatever, and was like, "Oh my God, I think we're at war." something very. And so then my dad, who works at the airport, couldn't go to work because everything was grounded, and so it was just me and my dad at home, and I was watching the news as like a 14, 15-year-old, however old I was. And like my dad was like, turned off the TV and was like, we're going for a walk. And I like remember that so vividly because he was just like you were just staring blank faced at the news, and it's this like after a while, you know, it's the same footage over and over, and you don't know anything. There's nothing new. It's just like, and so that's what I like immediately like thought of when I was reading this, because Elsie and Jaden are like to the point where Amari is like, when did they start having nonverbal conversations? Like, that's me and Elsie's thing. We are best friends. Like, what are they doing? It's like they're sitting there staring over the top of Amari like, is she okay? I don't think she's okay. So then Elsie slams the laptop shut and is like, enough of that. So Amari is also feeling left behind because Quentin has gone off and left them at this motel, and she was expecting to be treated like a partner. Quentin texts that he's on his way back to the motel and that their mother is coming, so Amari decides to run to the bathroom, put more healing gel on her scratches, and like clean herself up as much as possible. She's worried about like what her mother will say when she sees her, because again, less than 12 hours, like she still has all of the battle scars from the Great Game, from dealing with Dylan, from dealing with Harlow, from barely escaping with only a drop of her magic. And as she's in the bathroom, she hears the voice of Dylan in her head saying, "You'll be punished for what you've done." And so, yeah, like this chapter, it's a lot of just kind of setting the scene, but it really made me think about like all of these kind of dynamics, especially between Amari and Quentin, because Quentin...
Is your audio going out?
Oh, I can hear.
Uh-oh.
Maybe it's me. I can't hear either of you talking.
Oh. Weird.
Oh no. Leave and come back.
I'm gonna eat. Let me not cheat. There's no one on here, right?
No.
No one's watching.
But also, you know, if we're on a break, that's the point. Patrons get the background. I'm over here putting Aquifer on my cuticles, so, you know, things happen.
Staring at my puppy. She's so great.
She's okay. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us now? Can you hear me now? Okay, so yeah, so we just like, I was thinking a lot about like the dynamics of like birth order, as well as like being reunited with someone and like trying to find a new normal, because Quentin has been asleep for 2 years, and in those 2 years Amari has grown a lot. She's been through a lot. She had to find out about the supernatural world all on her own. She went through her first 2 years in the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs by herself, and like has dealt with also learning that she's a magician and having that kind of microscope on her, on top of learning the full truth about, not even really the full truth, but like the truth about what Quentin was doing for most of her life, and his notoriety in this new world versus her notoriety in this new world, right? Like Quentin is like highly well-known, highly esteemed, and thought of as like a hero. So there's already a lot of pressure of that, of like being his little sister and like coming in without him, and everyone knowing a lot about, or thinking they know a lot about you and a lot about like your brother. And in some ways they know a bit more about your brother than you do, but then also like there's the added thing of, and you're a magician, which is a whole different set of notoriety and stuff, right? So Quentin wakes up and he's like, "You're my little sister." And like there's like the 12-year age gap too, which is like, it's not even just like you're my little sister, like you're my child. I feel a sense of responsibility towards you that is deep, and I feel a sense of guilt that you have gone through all of this stuff and you found out that you're a magician. There's all this notoriety, and I've been MIA. And I wanted to bring you into this world. I had this whole idea of how I was going to bring you into this world, but I was MIA, and I wasn't able to do it that way, right? So both of them are kind of clinging to these ideals of what they wanted, or how this like new relationship of them both being in this world is going to be. And they're so divergent because they've had completely different experiences, especially the last like 2 years. And that has really colored like not only their relationship with each other, but then like I think, and we only really get Amari's perspective in this, especially in this first chapter, but like how Amari is thinking about Quentin's intentions and motivations here. Because like her and Elsie, we do our own investigations. Like, we saved the supernatural world without you. We will save it, again. And like, she's coming off of what she feels to be a failure, but she still is like, I've accomplished a lot. Like, don't leave me behind. I'm not just like, I can help. She's not, even if I don't have my magic, even if whatever, like.
Yeah, she's not like, she's maybe dispirited, but she's not like down. She's not ready to give it up to the adults. She's like, no, I still know things. I still know how to do things. Like, and I think also too, like, just to add what you were saying too, there's also the like, she's always looked up to Quentin. And so this whole time, her kind of driving force, like for all of Amari and the Night Brothers, her whole driving force was like trying to find him and make sure he was okay. And then the second one, and even still, it was like trying to live up to his like, to what like everyone else thinks of him, but also to like her own ideal of who he is. And so in part of it, it's also like she's always been reaching for him in order for them to be partners, and then for him to come after 2 years and be like, nah, stay at the at the motel and like be safe. She's just kind of like she's being put on the bench. I feel like, didn't Bree say that in Bloodmark the whole time? Like, she was just like, I feel like I'm being benched. And it's like, girl, you need to be protected. And in this case, it's like, Amari, you're 13. Like, so it's like a weird, I remember like reading this, like just as I was reading the book, feeling both like torn for both sides of like being on Amari's side because she is the main character and like, yeah, let her do the thing, but also like being an older sibling, being an oldest sibling, being like, nah, sit down, like you're 13, like let me like, you know what I mean, like let me protect you, let me help you type thing. Like, I understand both sides, but it's like it's a weird balance, and I think it also adds like complication to their like whole dynamic, because again, the last time they interacted, none of these things were really in play in the way that they are now.
Right. And I think too, there's a sense from Amari that not even like he's trying to protect me, but like he doesn't believe in me, or he's not seeing me for who I am now. And like, there has been a lot of growth, right? But like you said, on Quentin's side too, you're 13, you saved the supernatural world and all this stuff as a magician. You just got your magic taken from you. And the, like, now acting director of the the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs is gunning for you. You know her secret. Like, there's a lot more at stake in terms of Amari's safety and Amari's ability to protect herself, that she's not really giving credence to, or she's just like, I've done it before, I can, I'll figure it out. We'll do it live, basically. And I was just thinking a lot about that, because I have an older brother, but we are closer in age, and so a lot of like, and I mean, we've never had to go through like
supernatural
world saving world supernatural kind of things, but there's always been this sense of like, if I need him, I can call him and he'll help me out, but like, vice versa, especially since we've been adults, you know, like, there are things that he's definitely better at than me. Adulting in general, money, planning, like understanding insurance. I still don't, every time I have to like sign up for insurance, I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But then there are things that I excel at that he doesn't, right? Like creative stuff. Where are we going? What are places what things or adventures can we do or whatever? Like, you know, so there is a much more equal relationship that has been established, especially since we've been adults. Quentin is an adult. Like, Quentin is like can vote, can do all these things. So there is not this like it's a different relationship. And then I was also thinking a lot about how this also is informed by Amari's guilt and her high self, like her self-criticism and self, like, negative self-talk, I guess. Like, she's it's like page 2 of this book, chapter 1, and she's like,
right, this is my fault.
I've left, this is all my fault, right? Like, this boy who you've been battling for the past 2 years set fire to an entire bureau. This woman who has like risen in the ranks or whatever, has like mind control capabilities, and is at least 50 something years old,
like
right?
100 something.
Yeah, she's been around. Like, she's lived some life, right? Like, she bested you, kind of, I guess. But you're 13.
Yeah. And also, though, like, it was a lot going, like we were watching, or when we were reading Amari in the Great Game, like, it was so much back to back. She'd be trying to focus on one thing, and then she'd get pulled into the Great Game in the middle of her trying to figure out something equally as like important. And it's like you were pulled in so many different directions. It was only like the first 2 weeks of summer camp. Like, technically summer camp is still it's the same summer. So this all happened in like,
it's the same summer.
So it's just kind of one of those things. And I appreciate that like Elsie and Jaden both tell her that, like, girl, be serious. You did your best.
It's not on
you. And it's like and it's even like part of it is like, okay, yeah, you're 13, but I think that like if I was dealing with all that shit, I'd probably fail too. You know what I mean? Like, it's there's only so much planning, and there's only so much, you know, she's trying to solve a mystery. She's trying to like make sure she learns her magic. She's trying to make sure, like, there's all these different things at the same time. It's a lot to juggle. So I just,
and it was like
yeah, let me add that I think, especially when you're talking about the dynamic of like Quentin and Amari, and like the way that she's like weighing these stakes in her brain, it's clear that both of the, like, because Quentin is an overachiever, like Amari is also like ingrained in her like overachieving as like a norm. And so her desire to prove herself kind of like adds to that, where she's in a position that she sets these like lofty goals without realizing that it's not on her to execute those goals that she's decided for herself. Like, whenever like she's talking to Elsie and Jaden, and they're like, you're not, girl, you don't, why are you the one who has to save the world? There's so many people that should that are in between you and Harlow and like Merlin. Like, why is it down to you? And her reaction is, well, like, I had the opportunity and I wasn't able to seize it. And it's like, that's, sure, you're correct. You were not able to do that. And I feel like she feels like justified and be like, I can point this out and they can't cut me on this one. But it's like, you shouldn't be thinking that way. Like, you shouldn't think that like you, a 13-year-old, you're the last buck before it all goes to crap. Like, that it shouldn't feel like it's on you. And I think that I think that while Elsie and Dylan can help her like accept the stakes of everything, I don't think anyone but like a therapist probably would be able to push her to look into why she thinks that like accountability and like reckoning has to be on her. Like, and I understand that. I think especially with the world the way that it is, I remember growing up and believing that there were systems in place where people would be held accountable, and people who were only like qualified to do things would be the ones running those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I completely understand being young and to have strong convictions and be like, well, if they're not going to step up, I'm going to make sure that like, accountability is in play. But you only like everything is working against you being that person. And the sooner you can like not make peace with that, because peace, like some levels of peace around that become a level of like compliance, and you don't want to become complicit in the issues that are ongoing. But there's a level of like finding out your role where it doesn't feel like you're the only sole responsible person, and you shouldn't be the sole responsible person. There's so many other people who are grown adults who know what they're doing, that before you ever should feel this way. And I think that her having that one drop left plays into that. Like she's trying to like, and we get in like later in the book we can see her like actively deciding to distract herself from how she's feeling. And I think that is something that is related to it all as well. And so like beginning this story with the antagonist having everything they worked for.
Mm-hmm.
Harlow is in the position that she wanted to get into. Dylan is being called the most dangerous criminal alive. I know that he is like just like loving that, just reveling in that.
He made it. Look, Ma.
And so I know that it has to like gall her that like all these awful people are getting exactly what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want good for everyone, and I can't even get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the layers and nuance to that, but like honey child, like, and it's just so funny like being on this side of life where you're like, I understand like how much like intensity and passion are behind these like convictions you have when you're young, but also being like, you gotta live a little bit longer and understand like why you can't hold all that pressure all the time. It's not good for you.
And I think the final like kind of thing I wanted to talk about too is and what you just said, Porshèa, really brought this to the head to me, is like coming from where Amari and Quentin came from, and like they're having high expectations of themselves and stuff. There's also this like extra layer of exceptionalism, and like you got to be twice as good to get half as far type of thing that they especially these two Peters siblings have attained for the most part. And it's not been easy, and like it's so easy, and I'm thinking even about myself, like it's so easy to discount the things that you've accomplished once you've accomplished them, because it's kind of like, okay, well, I did it, so it couldn't be that impressive, right? This like lack of like this sense of like always needing to prove yourself. And so even once you've like done the thing that you said would be the thing to prove yourself, once you've reached that, you're like, well, obviously it wasn't that hard, so I got to do something else to prove myself, or you know what I mean? I got to keep stretching or keep attaining this level of exceptionalism. And I think that it's really funny to see like these, you know, they grew up in the same house and the same like environment and stuff, and like kind of seeing their exceptionalism kind of battle each other, where for Quentin, I'm assuming, we don't fully get into his head, but you can kind of see it, that part of his exceptionalism is taking care of his sister, and like not only, you know, and the supernatural world, right? He's vanquished. He's like a superhero. He's got his own shoe and like action figures and stuff, right? Like he's like, I've been asleep for 2 years, but like I'm still me, and I gotta, you know, I'm the hero. Meanwhile, my little sister's over here thinking that she's the hero when she is a child and like needs to be protected by me, the hero. And so having those like two kind of same impulses like clash against each other, I think is really intriguing, and it's kind of funny to just see Elsie and Jaden like on the sidelines, like, are y'all like looking at each other like,
good?
You see this? Like, this is crazy, right? And also like there's this like moment when I found this part super funny when like Amari is like, of course Elsie would take Quentin's side. She's the biggest Vanquish fan that ever was. And it was like...
No, she's just saying...
No, she just
worried
about you.
It's like, yes, and
like, and I think too, like, a part of, like, Elsie's thing is, like, Amari sacrificed winning the game to, like, save me, or to, you know, to try to save me, or think she was saving me. I'm not gonna, like, squander that by letting her just go off and get hurt again, right? So it's just really funny. I find the whole thing.
I would say get hurt again, but also to like discount what she did. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't fail. She was tricked. Yeah. And she chose to save her best friend over, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like
something she didn't want. We talked about the whole time last book. She don't want to lead these magicians. She just don't want to go to war. She doesn't want the crown. She just doesn't want the alternative to be that Dylan has the crown.
So it's like, if it comes between that and your best friend, she's like, well,
I don't want that stinky crown anyway, you know?
And so it's an interesting thing. Again, it does make a lot of sense why she would get there, or like how she would get there in terms of like her characterization. But I appreciate that she has friends to be like, girl, no,
please, be for real.
Moving on to chapter 2. So Amari is still in the bathroom. She gets startled by Elsie, who is like coming in to show off her like new dragon skills. She's like got these like partial scales on her hand, and she's like super excited about it. But then she notices that Amari, I think her aura is like a neon yellow, so she's like, something is wrong. And Amari tells her about hearing Dylan's voice. Elsie's kind of like wondering if it's a hallucination or like a panic attack or like something like that. And is kind of, again, how we were talking about, just trying to make sure Amari's okay and actually like acknowledging what she's kind of been dealing with. But Amari does not have time for panic attacks, apparently, and is like, nah, I'm fine. Don't tell Quentin. It was just a one-off thing, whatever. Jaden pops in to let them know Quentin is back. And I don't know if I want to talk about this now or wait till we can just talk about it now. So Amari, he's like, comes in. Yeah, let's just do it now. So he comes in and he's like, oh, you know, Quentin's back. But then he says like, oh, the scar didn't go away or whatever. And she was like, nah. And then he says, she's still cute though. And it's so cute. And then he freaks out and is like, well, you know, like in a normal way.
And immediately it's like, well, you know,
like a regular way, you know, like, oh, wow, that tree sure is cute. And Amari's like, did he just compare me to a tree? And it's adorable. Preteen crushes. What a whirlwind. Tumultuous.
So cute. And so funny because if like Elsie is over there tickled pink, just like that was highly entertaining. I appreciated that. If Amari was anybody else, she would have been like, he just called me cute. Did he compare me to a tree? No, he called you cute and then freaked out. He called you cute. Her brain said nope.
She said wait,
tree.
She was like, wait, this can't be right. It's like me and I say my youngest brother, when he says it simply can't be, like that was her brain. It simply can't be. And now then she's like, wait, a tree? And now she's stuck on the tree thing instead of the cute thing. And I think that's adorable.
She's stuck on the tree thing. You stuck on the wrong thing, Amari.
It's kind of like necessary though. Like, we need her to be stuck on like this point. Just do that, because like I think it makes it easier for them to crush on each other, to not sit too long in the crush part and just kind of be like, is this happening?
Because that's the thing, it's like partial denial, right? Like, it has to partially be denial, it's really awkward, you don't really know what to do, you're friends, like, it's not, you know, it's great. I love it. I love how like it's so just it's just so pure, and like it just, they're just, you know,
I also love the idea because we saw in like chapter 1 that like Elsie and Jaden, I mean, we've seen this too in like in book 2, like they're developing their own friendship too. And I just like love that like off page, out of Amari's hearing, Elsie is going to
roast him,
just tear that boy to shreds.
Cute like a tree, huh?
Oh,
You
cute
just
like
really
a
love
tree.
trees. Is your favorite holiday
That
art
was
or
cute.
something?
Kind of like a tree. What do the trees look like?
You
What
have
do
a
you
crush on Grandma
Reminds me of
Willow? What's going on?
right. It reminds me of Jennifer Lewis, and she says, "Don't they help us breathe?"
Grieve.
Anyway, back to the summary. That was just adorable.
So yeah.
So they leave the bathroom, they find Quentin, he's out on his special, you know how like the I don't know, so he's on a secret agent thing. So he has 2 open computers and he's like tracking the media and whatever. So we find out that a watcher, which is a non-magical person who has suspicions about the supernatural world, got a pic of Dylan and a group of magicians just before the Bureau fire and then posted it to like regular social media. So the Bureau is obviously freaking out. They're taking it down and kind of like excusing it away as a movie like set situation. But it's also on the like supernatural social media and they know what's up. Like that's not something you can quite as easily explain away. And so they kind of like think of it as a good thing in that like, okay, well, at least that means that Harlow won't be able to focus on us. Like she'll have to focus more on Dylan now that it's public. And so that gives them time to like find a safe house and like figure out a plot to take her down. Quentin feels like getting Harlow out of there is a higher priority than dealing with Dylan because mostly of resources, and he's just like, you know, I know agents, I have ends, like we can get her out, get the Bureau back in shape, and then go after Dylan. Which Amari kind of agrees with, like she's accepting it as a rationale, but I don't know that she completely agrees with that. And then as they're like talking through that, then there's a post from Rumors and Whispers on social media that hints that Quentin might be awake.
Not very subtly.
Not
Can
subtly
we
at all.
also just, I was gonna say, can we read the post real quick? Because it is so,
it's
like Elsie's like, I think someone might know that you're
so it says, psst, listen up. There's a certain photo going around that's got the entire supernatural world in an uproar. Dylan Van Helsing, unknown magicians, a fire at the Vanderbilt Hotel. Many of you are waking up to the realization that your families may not be safe. Who knows what the next target might be? Times like these call for heroes, and it just so happens that the quintessential hero has returned to vanquish the threat. Of course, you didn't hear it from us. They capitalized Quint in quintessential.
Quint in all caps. And vanquish they spelled like vanquish.
So it's like not subtle at all. So they're trying to figure out like what's going on. They find a hole underneath one of the beds. Amari realizes that like there are flightless fairies in this place, so she runs down outside. There's like a maintenance closet and gets the fairy, who's like, "Dang, you got me."
This fairy is so cute, though. He's dressed like a detective.
I know. With a giant cell phone on his back.
Look, we've talked about this before. Big ups to the illustrator. You're doing a fantastic job.
Yes.
Keep doing what you're doing, sweetie.
Yeah.
We are recording you on our devices as well. Thank you.
Literally, it's so much, and I feel like there's improving too. Like I feel like the ones in this book are like they're so good, and not that the others weren't, but it's just like I definitely remember noticing it. Like, oh, they were in the booth,
but also like
cooking it up in there.
Like you're enjoying the story too because you're getting the angles. You know, like you're into it. I can tell. Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but like, I guess really one of the big things in this is like Amari not really giving herself time to like process and to not be okay. And like, she's in this situation with people who, it's not like she's in an unsafe place. I mean, in the small sense, not necessarily in the, we'll also find out how things are actually worse than they think. But, on like the kind of most like smallest sense, she's with people who care about her and who are, you know, there to support her. And so, but in her head, she's just so caught up in the next thing. And I think part of it, I think, does have to do with the fact that like literally the battle with Dylan just happened. So it's not like she's had a week to kind of process and is now like, okay, we gotta go. It's like, no, we gotta go now. And everybody else is telling her to slow down. And so yeah, it's just one of those things of like her, and I think, you know, it's a theme that carries through the book, and I think will I mean, we know this is a spoiler heavy podcast, but spoilers will kind of carry into her decision at the very end of this book, of her just like needing a break and needing to like actually take the time to process all of the shit that's gone on. Like, again, this is the same summer as Amari and the Great Game. So it's not like between Amari and the Night Brothers and the Great Game, there was like a whole year. This is literally back to back. It's all the same summer. So there's already a lot that's happened and there's a lot that's gonna happen. So it's just like, yeah, not giving her that time.
I wish I could say that is just an indicator of age, where you feel like everything has to be happening right now because you're like, you know, like because like everything feels very, very urgent. But I'm like, I mean, the more the existential dread slides in, the more I'm like, do I just, you know, say la vie and do it all now when I know what like life is gonna look like for the next couple of days, or do I, you know, measure these things out? Like, let's be thoughtful. But there is a level of like the idea of like striking while the iron's hot, and feeling like a level of like not FOMO, but like you're not quite on the ball the way you need to be. That I understand how she's here, and we just talked about her mentality and stuff, but it's just for me that she's like in this place where she's just like, I got to get through this, and then like everyone around her is like, okay, but we're here with you, and we're telling you like there's only so much we can do. And I think that what for me, like in this, one of the things I noticed in this chapter was that like the fact that like Quentin very easily just like was like, okay, the thing that has to happen is that we got to get Merlin back in office. Like we got to go back to the status quo. And I'm like, maybe that's the problem. Maybe the fact that this world has been working on a status quo with one person governing this freaking world for so long has allowed
and is reliant on him.
Like, and he's not, but somehow is not being looked at like, oh, is this a dictatorship because you like him? Like, what are we doing? Right. And because of this, there's these old values that takes forever people to change. Amari's trying to change it, but it all works in favor of a Harlow, of the magicians having this plan. They were able to build these plans out because the system never changed enough for them not to have to figure how to restart a plan and rethink it, because y'all kept doing the status quo. So it's one thing about like paying attention to reading and like knowing how stories go in a world where someone's trying to go back to the status quo. You know, in a series, at the end of the series, the world cannot go back to the status quo. We're gonna get something different.
Right. And like I would say too, I feel like that's also a big like I like part of the dynamic too between Amari and Quentin. And Amari I don't think is fully there, right? Like she's still bought into the bureau. She's still like, you know, looks up, she's a junior agent. That's like something that she cares about. But like I think that Quentin comes in and he is very much like, even the magician thing, they don't talk about it, but then I'm pretty sure at some point it comes up as like you know what I mean? Like it's a thing that he a prejudice that he has because he's been brought up in this place, right? And so he is very much a like stickler for the rules and like how things are supposed to be, and very much establishment, and like, yeah, it's just something that's going to keep coming up. While Amari, Amari again is bought in, but she's also a rule breaker for sure. Like,
but she's also been ostracized
exactly.
and marginalized by this status quo, right? So like the thing that like,
and I say rule breaker in the sense
Quentin
of like by any
to...
means necessary. Like if I gotta, bro,
exactly.
Sorry.
Oh, the motorcycle.
But yeah, can y'all hear it?
No.
No.
Okay, cool. Because that was my issue. I was just like, dude, like.
You're doing a lot.
But yeah, no. So just like the like, because she has to skirt around some of the rules, I think she's a little more open to the idea of things changing, or like can be more open to the idea of things changing. Because she's literally had to, like, in order to get certain things done, she's had to sneak around.
I mean, her whole existence,
right, is a crime.
Got there, like, it's a crime, so it had to change so that she could stay in the world. Like, I think one of the things that, and we'll see more as the book goes on, is this idea that though Quentin is marginalized and like he was like a merit kid, and so again, like I just kind of talked about with the idea of like having to like prove yourself over and over again, he is very much like the man, the establishment. I mean, like we were go back to Amari and the Knight Brothers, and we were like, oh, why you gotta join the cops, man? Amari, like, please don't be a magical Fed, right? But like that's what Quentin is, and like that doesn't really change just because his sister is different. It very much gives the like people who get towards, I don't even want to say like liberal policies, but like humane, equal treatment of people only once they know someone who is that person. And their first thing is like, well, you're different. You're the exception. It's like, no, they're not. They're just the person that you know. And so Quentin has to grapple with this. Well, Amari's
she's
like, been there, done that.
She's working on it.
She's working on it, but the idea of that magicians aren't wholly bad. She's
right.
Like,
she's not. She doesn't have to work through that.
You were asleep when we
I
worked
feel
through
like
that.
the thing with Amari and Quentin here is also the fact that like Quentin is literally the symbol of the status quo. This is what happens when the system works well. She's the symbol to a lot of magical folk. Like she could, like, they're waiting to see if she's gonna be the person that can be like, the system can change because you're and you're proof of all the things we've been trying to show for years but have not been able to do, but you may be the person in position to make that change happen. So now I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how that goes, if like these two symbols being siblings, like how, if that's gonna bear fruit. It has to in some point, right? And then the other notes besides my I'll never get over how cute Jaden and Amari are note is that I appreciated from this chapter how we started in like Amari's having her moment in the bathroom, and Elsie like comes in and is reading her aura, and Amari's like, I'm gonna skip over like me trying to hide anything from Elsie. That's fruitless and it's dumb for me to do it. Like, I've learned my lesson. I'm never hiding anything from the bestie ever again. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I'm glad for that growth.
I think, yeah, I feel like that's something I appreciate about this series in general, is like Amari makes mistakes, but she very rarely makes the same mistakes. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that like she necessarily like, there are some things that people take time to grow with, but like simple things like I was keeping things from Elsie last book. It did not work. We were fighting, but we also like, it didn't work. It was terrible for both of us.
It messed up making things happen.
It messed,
like,
everything was worse. And for her to like acknowledge that and be like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I appreciate that. It's like, we're not going to retread the same kind of like conflict, I guess. Other than, obviously there's like overarching,
I think too,
but, like,
one
of the
things,
like, interpersonal conflicts.
Yeah. I think one of the things, too, I really like about, like, how BB Alston did that was, like, in Amari and the Night Brothers, she was keeping things from Elsie in terms of, like, Magi Girl and, like, Dylan being a magician and stuff like that, that, like, she could have told, but didn't, and it didn't work. And then in The Great Game, there were things that she, like, literally couldn't say.
And she was trying to protect her,
like,
and, like...
It didn't...
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there was also, like, the guys, whatever, that
she couldn't say.
She literally couldn't speak about The Great Game. And when they figured that out, too, it, like, helped them. But it was like, okay, so I know what it feels like to, like, purposefully keep things from Elsie. I know what it feels like to have to keep things from Elsie when I don't want to, when I do want to tell her everything. And, like, now I'm never, like, we're just not doing that. Like, I like that sense of, like, fully every single option has been explored.
Right. And to be like, nope.
Now we're just on the best he knows as soon as I know.
And it's not even like she doesn't hesitate, but it's like taking the moment to, like, be intentional about, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So.
And I think something else that's really interesting is, like, as someone who has had panic attacks and things, she's not, I guess the growth part too is, like, we're not keeping things from Elsie, but we're not going to tell Mom and Quentin about this.
And I get it in the sense of, like, she doesn't actually know if it was a panic attack or not at this point. So, like, you telling them, and then what? Now you're in this motel for the rest of the time.
I already feel sidelined, and, like, and then she makes the promise too of, like, if it happens again, I'll say something. But I don't know what that was. It could have just been a fluke. We're okay. But I do like that.
Yeah.
That growth.
I think the other thing the last thing I wanted to bring up, which I don't think we have to go super deep in because it's gonna keep coming up, but is just, like, the role of social media in this story and the ways that, like, it, like, a lot of the stuff that they do is, like, undercover and, like, secret and whatever, and you're, like, trying to dig deep into, like, more complicated plots, and or, like, schemes, whatever, but, like, at the same time, it's like a lot of stuff changes because people are getting information on social media, or things are happening and they have to react. And so I think it's interesting, and, like, well, when we get into the next chapter, talk a little bit more about the fairy. But I just feel like that's really interesting. I think the Watchers, like, every time they get brought up, I'm kind of like, like, they're they're coming. They're not yet the, like, main folks, but they are definitely going to be a problem.
Yeah, they're going to be I definitely see them being a bigger part of the full crux of the story. I do think too it's interesting because it's a middle grade story, and, like, the level of social media in terms of, like, how they're getting their information, the sources they're getting their information from, and then what we saw with, like, Harlow and stuff about, like, how information can be manipulated, and what people know. And so I love the idea of reading this and really getting a sense of, like, media literacy and also, like, critical thinking and, like, looking at the word, like, even that very, very badly hidden rumors and whispers thing, which is just like, they might as well just said the thing, right? Like, what those, like, touchstones are, the, like, little, like, clues and hints that are being dropped around, and how many people pick that up, and then also what does that mean for them, right? So, like, Quentin's plan, a large part of that is that people think that he's still asleep so that he's able to have this, like, amount of movement and not being, obviously they're looking for Amari, but they're not looking for him. And so that's one of the, like, justifications for keeping Amari hidden, and then he being able to, like, use his contacts and go around and, like, do things because no one is expecting him to be awake. But what does that mean now that, like, there is some visibility on them and what they can do and can't do.
If fashion is your thing, eBay is it. eBay's where I find all my favorites, from handbags to iconic streetwear, all authenticated. For real. This time, a little Supreme, some Gucci. I even have that vintage Prada on my watch list. That's why eBay's my go-to for all my go-tos. Yeah, eBay, the place for new, pre-loved, vintage, and rare fashion. eBay, things people love.
Here on Wizard Team, it's no surprise that we love books. We also love supporting the independent bookstores.
With our bookshop affiliate link, you can not only get all the books on your TBR, but you can support indie bookstores and B&C at the same time.
And if you're not sure what you want, that ain't no problem. Check out our The Plot Thickens list full of recommendations from none other than Porshèa herself.
Head to www.bookshop.org/shop/BlackNerdsCreate to treat your shelves.
Treat your shelves.
Oh, that's nice. That's clever.
Oh my goodness.
That's clever.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Chapter 3, with Amari and company undergoing a true life fly-in-the-wall situation with the unveiling of Columbo, the gossip site fairy.
He's so cute. I'm sorry. His name is Columbo. Are you kidding?
Legit was like in a hole in a wall and wandered away
So
whenever
funny.
he was like, "Oh, I've been unveiled. My situation is not great." Hilarious. And in his conversation with like the group, he is like arguing that like, "Oh, I have all rights to be here. All your gossip blogger, like, it's like, oh, I have every reason to be here, like it's legal." And Amari counters that like, "Actually, sir, you're a regular fairy, not a flightless fairy, so those statutes do not actually like adhere to you. Like, you don't live here, so you can't do these things." And he's like, "Well, we can work something out." So they end up working out an exclusive interview deal where the fairy will not like will revoke what has already been written about Quentin, and they will not press charges against the fairy. And when Quentin offers that he will give exclusive first interview rights to the fairy's like, "Well, then I can drop you some tea that you may not know about yourselves right now." And he starts off with a little, like a slight little sip, and they're like, "Bro, this is not anything that we don't already know. Like, please, like, this is what you think's gonna keep you out of jail? Try again." He's like,
It's cold.
It's tepid.
This tea is
like,
cold.
So he then gives them a little bit something hot. He says, turns out that Harlow is going to make sure, because like when Amari in a previous chapter had a moment where she was like, "You know what? The good thing out of all this kerfuffle with the magicians and Dylan and Harlow is that they're not going to pay any attention to me. I can move around like I need to." Harlow's like, "Not so quickly, little baby. I'm gonna put a big hunt. Like, you're gonna be the crosshairs of not only the supernatural agencies, but also the like regular world agencies as well. Because we're naming you and Elsie as Dylan's accomplices in this whole thing." And so Amari,
I'm curious. Sorry, really quickly. I'm curious, what do you tell like regular governments about why a 13-year-old is like most wanted? Also, two most wanted.
Yeah.
How do you tell like the regular governments that these like minors are extremely
They probably don't
dangerous.
say that. They probably put them on like the kidnapped
I think
or
maybe
like lost. Yeah.
Maybe it's an Amber. Yeah, maybe it's like an Amber Alert or something.
Yeah, Amber Alert.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe saying that they had something to do with the fire.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, like delinquent, but
I don't
also
think they ever.
Right.
I've never
you know,
seen like
I don't know.
lie you say like a kid. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen them do that, but I could see them putting them like on an Amber Alert, like or some kind of level of like alert to watch for these kids,
look for them type situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Amari surmises that Harlow is setting them and is doing all this so that she can deter both Elsie and Amari, who are the only people who actually know the full facets of her ability, from revealing it to people. And before they can delve too deeply into what all this means, all the different things that Quentin set up for surveillance around their hotel room are all set off. So Mama Peters officially rings the alarm on this whole situation. You know how to throw a Beyonce reference in here. And Columbo uses this distraction to get away, which is where we end the chapter. So as we were talking about how cute Columbo is, I did make a note of like how like moments like this just bring so much fun and like magical whimsy into the series, and it's like one of the reasons why like I think we've all connected with it, because like there's no fun in having a fantasy story if you're not going to be a little bit whimsical with it. Like even in a war bloodbath kind of zone, like those moments, those little pockets of whimsy really like up the ante of me actually caring more about the world. And I love that through all the stuff that's going on, like with the cuteness of like their budding relationship between Jaden and Amari, but also like this world is magical and there's magical creatures who are doing their regular livelihood stuff, including being a gossip like paparazzi as a fairy. And I think it was funny whenever Columbo's like, oh, we can work this out. We're adults. We can work this out. And all the kids look at Columbo, this little fairy, and then look at look at Quentin, the only actual other adult in the room. And they're like, okay, y'all are the adults, I guess. And it's just a fun little like tension, but whimsy at the same time that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree.
I also really liked the idea of, and like I think as an adult, reading this, you catch like the actual social commentary about it, but as a kid it's just like a funny thing of when Quentin is like, you used to do real journalism, and then Columbo's like, that ain't pay the bills, people want gossip. It's like, yeah, like we used to have actual real you know, integrity, journalism, and like things, you know, actual newsworthy things, integrity, ethics around it, right? And Columbo being like, man, I got a family to feed. I got kids. You know, like, so I liked that part too, because it's also funny and like whimsical, but it also like sprinkles in a little bit of like actual commentary, without like taking away from, like you said, like the cute fairy detective look. So
yeah. And I think I like just in the series in general, like there's always like a level of fun, even though like this book is very
it goes there.
He's doing the most. There are moments where I'm like, bro, like, and actually kind of soon where I'm just like, please
have mercy,
like get off my neck. But at the same time it's still fun. Like you're not like nothing feels like it's too bleak. Like it's definitely like, oh snap. But at the same time you're like, okay, but this is interesting, or like this is cool. Or it's funny when we meet, what's his name?
And there's like some levity.
When we meet the ghosts or whatever, I can't remember his name, but like stuff like that where it's just like,
is it Boo?
Oh,
I can't remember. Maybe it's Boo. I felt like Boo was not right.
Boo is very cute and hilarious, but like the dad is
creepy. But Boo, I think that's his name, but it's funny. You know what I mean? It's like in the middle of like some serious stuff going on, there's always like this added levity, which I feel like is
and that's what makes,
appreciated
honestly,
while they're
a lot of
on
middle
the
grade
run.
series are really good for that. Like that's what like make, as an adult coming to read it, like again, cozy fantasy has its place. Like I'm not want to have that moment. Even just like whimsical fantasy, again, less bloodbath fantasy, just straight like fun, like more, yes, there's conflict, but it's not so war or whatever driven. That has its place too. But something about like middle grade specific fantasy just does a little bit of something.
I think what it is when you were saying that is because middle grade fantasy gives you, it has all the stakes, right? But it does also have the cozy. It has that really good balance. Like I just read a cozy fantasy that literally nothing happened. It was like it was almost like a rom-com, you know, kind of like a deja brew or wishful thinking kind of thing, where but even less happened. Like it literally like nothing. It was kind of like just a slice of life type of thing. They didn't explain the magic system at all. There were dragons, which is why I picked it up. But like there was no reasoning behind why there were dragons and magical creatures. But like middle grade fantasy has like both the stakes and the cozy like kind of slice of life. You know, I'm just a fairy out here
to do my job.
doing my job, trying to feed my kids thing, trying to while you're on the run. You know, that's, I'm sorry you're on the run.
Consider
but like,
this,
you know,
juicy gossip.
I'm on the run with you. You are not alone. I am here
right.
with you.
With you. Right? But then it's like, you cannot say that the stakes are not staking, right? But I'm also just not, coming off of like reading Octavia Butler, I'm not in despair while the stakes are staking. Like what is
well again and again like I would like he raises the stakes in this book as well. Like it's not like and that's the thing, like it's things get more stressful, but again
it's fun.
There's these things that are like it's fun, you're still having fun, but you're a little bit more stressed. And you're kind of like, how dare you, but
like are we fun. All frogs in the pot? Possibly, but the bubbles are fun, I guess.
Right. Bubbles
right?
got sparkles.
It's getting cozy up in here. It's getting warm, but I like it. And then all of a sudden, oh shoot, he done burnt me. My heart.
That might be the episode title: "Frogs in the Water."
Blood boiling for real.
Frogs in the pot.
Frogs in the pot.
My other note from this chapter, is that it was not missed on me how, when Columbo is talking about who is not only like are like, because like we know the stakes are that like Elsie and Amari are being targeted by Harlow, but like he mentions like, oh, I could easily write about how like you were on a run with both Amari and Elsie. He does not mention Jaden, and Jaden's there the whole time, and Jaden actually was the one who made the observation where he got caught out, like, right? So I didn't love how he just like makes like the black boy, like, you know, Quincy, but like the boy irrelevant in this thought process. And I feel like that comes from a place of like, in his gossip site's purview, like the kid who came from the regular world with no like magical affinity is not as interesting a person, so why would we even include his information in there? Which is really sucky, and it's very like indicative of like the kind of journalism, that, quote unquote journalism, that this is. But in the long run, it does keep Jaden kind of safe. So it's like I feel two ways about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a weird thing where obviously Amari's famous, obviously Quentin's famous, Elsie is with Amari, and also like when the last time they saw Harlow, it was Amari and Elsie who like Jaden wasn't there, which I guess,
but they wouldn't know that.
I guess, what was it like? Did Jaden, they got let go, and then Jaden was like, "Oh, I'm about to head to Amari's house."
But like, but the news cycle wouldn't. They like. They
but I'm not.
That.
No, of course, I'm saying that like the news site, and I'm not disagreeing with you either. I'm just saying like I guess I see like, because they're more high profile, like those are the things that will get
The clicks, the views. Yeah.
Views?
Clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. And like you said, it probably also keeps him a little safe, at least for now. It's like they don't know that Jaden is with them. And like either Columbo would add that or not, that like he's there. But if he doesn't, then Harlow, they have kind of a upper hand because they have an extra person. In the same way that like most people, well, that they want to keep Quentin's presence secret as well.
Yeah, I appreciate, I was just reading that portion and imagining what Jaden could possibly be feeling in this moment when, like, they're having a whole conversation just like, well, act like I'm not here then, okay. Like, I just happen to be the one who made you scramble, but okay.
It's like, keep underestimating me, you'll see.
You only got so long. I don't think there's anything else that like because there's other things that clearly, but there's so much I'm looking forward to covering as we work through this book that I'm just like
yeah. Agreed. And I don't know if anyone has noticed, we're trying out new formats for this to make it
onerous,
less long and meandering, and so I want to make sure we get all of our thoughts in a much more succinct way. And we thought we'd try it with this because it's faster, chapters are shorter. By the time we get to Oathbound, we'll be on top of Oathbound not being out right now, but like hopefully we'll be
we'll be a mean green podcasting machine. Not that we weren't before.
Exactly.
Because talk about hurting. BB Alston is luckily giving us some pain, but he felt bad. At least he apologized about it. Tracy is out here,
she's
gleeful, and she said it's a thickums. So we really got to make sure we got our succinctness down.
I don't think
to a science by the time Oathbound comes out.
As a writer who's aspiring to authorhood, I think I too would be mayhem, glee. People we falling apart
100%. That's why I'm kind of like I can't really be mad.
I'm the same boat,
100%.
Same boat. I would be.
I love when people get upset at my writing. It makes me laugh. I genuinely cackle. It's hilarious.
No.
I think there's something wrong with y'all, but maybe this is why I'm no longer an aspiring author.
Okay, I think who was I talking to about this? I don't remember. But it's like when you're
you like pain and you seek it out.
Okay, it's like when you are watching someone watch The Red Wedding for the first time.
Does Robyn
like you've already gone through the thing. Robyn knows what The Red Wedding is. Robyn saw The Red Wedding.
Yeah.
But it's like that. I'm maybe you haven't done that before. Like watch The Red Wedding. Probably not. But like it's a funny thing because it's like I already went through the turmoil. I've processed it, and now I'm watching you go through it, and it's funny. It's entertaining. Hurt people.
And I'm not in denial of. I'm like not. I'm not a masochist, like or a sadist, but like I do derive a level of like. Something comes from.
It's also like it's what you want. I think there's also the idea of like if someone is actually feeling something in your writing, that means it's good. Especially if they're feeling
you evoked
if you're evoking an emotion that you want them to feel, and that you're trying to evoke,
long-lasting emotion, right? Like something that'll carry them over into the next.
Like something that they're.
Oh yeah, because me and BB are not going to be okay for a while. And so that's while. And you know what too, this is the problem with Wither Team, is like when I was reading Despicable Wonders, when I got to we'll get there, I was like, I know he knows about us, right? Like I at that point he was on our midnight release thing. I was like, did he choose to do this because of how hype we are? Did it give, or not choose to, but like, did it give him extra pleasure when he was plotting it all out? You know what would cause
mayhem,
a lot of hurt and mayhem. You know who people have you know what part of my story people have a very emotional connection to? And we gave him the blueprint. We were like, as a podcast, we really vibe with this.
By the time we were having the party, it was published. We were reading, like, the book was in our hands. Yeah.
No, yeah. But I'm saying he knew about us when we were doing.
I'm sure it was more of twiddling hands. Oh, the joy I'll have when all the different people who have been are like, then whenever I see them,
when they get you. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. MVP.
I think we're unanimous.
So I think we had a unanimous MVP. Elsie and Jaden for just holding it down and keeping, for me at least, like being mindful of Amari's like state of mind and also being hopeful, like maintaining like hope and like not giving up on the situation while also not letting the situation like overpower them. And I think maybe it's a bit easier for them because they're not Amari. They haven't like lost their magic or anything like that, but like they were very much involved in this whole thing. And so it could have been the start of this book with 3 sad kids all feeling like failures and like feeding off of that like negative energy. But like they made a point to maintain and be like well aware of like, you know, that they've tried and that they will continue to keep trying, and then also to like pull Amari along with that hope.
The only thing I'll add is I will never forget how cute Amari and Jaden are, and
yes.
Cute like
you know who the cutest
like
the cutest tree is? Groot. Cute like Groot. Like little baby.
Cute like
Groot. I'm just little baby face.
Like Groot.
Just the Grootiest of us all.
Groot like
we are Groot. Amari and Jaden are Groots.
We are Groot.
We are Groot.
And I want to add just all of that. Also, Elsie's dragon shifting is getting better, and she's got partial shifts now. So shout out to her.
Yeah,
for that too.
She was like,
they're crawling up her arm
and go. She was like,
I love it.
They're crawling up her arm with that level of control,
but also like Maleficent. But also, I'm just excited that she's no longer in a place where she's letting the shame that other people put on her from keep her from being who she really is, which is gonna be a dragon. People are scared of you because you're gonna be a dragon. Like that's something standing up and like I'm a dragon. No one else can say they are a dragon. So try me, baby. Let me get my freaking dragon breath. No one's talking to me because I will burn stuff down.
Though I am hoping that someone else, if you are listening, BB Alston, I am hoping that someone else can say that they're a dragon, and we will meet those people.
We could, but I'm
before
saying,
this is over.
Like it's like being the avatar. It's like being the avatar and Core walking.
As of right now,
I'm the avatar. Yeah. No one can do anything about it. Like that, you got to deal with it. The energy that like Elsie cannot do that because they did not allow her to have that pride, and I'm like she's getting closer to that, and I'm so excited for her to be there. Like she's gonna have the same level of confidence as toddler Core. It's gonna be super
cute. Cool. Benched.
I benched Cosmo in Harlow. Cosmo because I'm still pissed at Cosmo. So we've done this before. I have a vendetta. This vendetta for this series is going to be Cosmo, and so there's a reason why I shouldn't have a vendetta against him. The fact that he was mentioned and being the downfall of Amari's ability to move forward and like putting Elsie in the way, like in her decision making, like that is just so untoward. And I really like, honestly, in my core, I just hope that he has the lifespan in this series that he deserves.
That's real.
What a hope. I went differently. I was like looking because I was like, ooh, do we want to all be unanimous? And like I could have gone that way, but then I had something stuck on my craw, and I think this is also like where the birth order thing comes in, because on this podcast I am the only last born youngest child. I had to bench Quentin, and not because of like what he does, but how he does it and like how he's moving. And I think that there's something to communicating a little bit more, and like you just woke up and now you're like running the show, and like yes, you're like in charge of caretaking like 3 13-year-olds who were scared and being hunted and all these things, but like they also you need to like recognize and be aware of like all of the experiences that they had without you, and so bring them in a little bit more and not leave Amari wondering or allowing her to think. And even if part of me thinks it's like it almost would be better to be like, you're a kid, you're not my partner, I'm gonna keep you safe, and let her be mad about that instead of just thinking the worst or thinking, you know, coming up with all these things. Because like at least if you said it, like at least for me, like reality is hardly ever as bad as what my anxious brain can come up with around reasons why things are happening or not happening. And so I do think that just kind of he's keeping a lot of things close to the vest, and I understand why that impulse is, but at least in the beginning, I wish that he would, before he left them at the motel, said like, here's what I'm thinking, but I'm gonna go out and like talk to my contacts and then like come back with a little bit more information, or just something to give them a little bit more security. So it's mostly communication.
I think they all know what he's going to do. I think the issue is that like this is a man who's basically been in a coma, and so like communication just is not the first thing that's coming to his brain. It's like safety. And like Amari mentions at a moment that he has like a weird like movement, like he's just like he's not fully recovered from being in a coma, like physically. So I wonder about like him not being in his, because you're talking about like your anxiety and how you're like feel like you're isolated sometimes in your own anxiety. I wonder how much of him is like he's stuck in, I've got to present, I'm Quentin of Vanquish, I have to present myself as like the most responsible and like a capable person, all while I've been out of service for years and my body is not bodying the way that it was 2 years ago. Like I gotta keep my face together, because if I can't let these kids feel like a lack of confidence, I'm only 22, but I gotta, you know what I mean? So my empathy for older siblings, because as an eldest daughter,
that's what I said. I was like, I think this is very much a sibling dynamic thing of how you read it, because like I like on the like second paragraph, like Amari's like, while my brother's out doing who knows what, the three of us are crowded around Elsie's laptop.
Who knows what, but she knows he's got like she knows that he's going to talk to contacts. Like when she talks through the chapter or thinks through the chapter, she's like, oh yeah, he's like doing his contacts, and here I am sitting here. It's like, bro, but you know that what he's doing, you just don't know. He hasn't told you why he's doing it or specifically who he's going to go do it with, but you know what he's doing.
See, I didn't read it that way. I read it.
You know, being an older sibling are extra dramatic for no reason. Like that's what that is. Like it's like, who knows what he's doing, girl?
No, we're not
going outside. Go talk to my okay.
Who knows? Okay. He didn't tell me. Say, hey, Amari. I'm gonna park y'all here for a second while I go talk to some people, and I'll be back.
I don't think that's
within an hour or something. It may not be, but that's what I wanted.
Okay.
That's what I wanted. And that's why he's
your reasoning.
Her face is like, child. No. Treat me like the adult I am, even though I'm 12 and I don't have no magic.
But
and I just been through the
I'm
ringer.
saying is like it's not even about you, and I think that's the thing.
Almost
is that
died.
everyone gets it's about them, and it's like, but it's about him. He's trying to present as his full self.
It's not called Quentin and the Despicable Wonders.
And his head
it is about her. She got main character energy because she's the main
I
character.
am capable despite my freaking comatose state 2 hours ago.
Okay, I binged Harlow.
Again. Someone who actually did something.
Did you want to say?
Yeah, I binged Harlow. She just for, like, why are you going after Amari and Elsie?
Why gotta be so rude?
Chase
like,
a magician that's not
you
them.
have,
yeah, like, please, you have bigger fish to fry.
And I'm like, we love a multitasker. We love
hope.
someone who has a multi-hyphenate ability. You know, to get like multiple things done, but not. And then, again, and I so I had this conversation recently with someone where they were like, "You just like," I'm like, you can't have a good story without a good antagonist. So like, I enjoy that the antagonist is again end up like any place where they're actually good. They're capable of the villainy that I need them to be villainy of. But like, yeah, you're right. There's no reason she should like.
Mm-mm.
But like,
there is a very good
reason.
You're so
it's just
in
that
your
like
ability to make everyone move the way you want them to. Why are you so troubled by 12 or 13-year-olds?
Because those 2 12 or 13-year-olds, while not in my grasp,
but
can then tell
if you're
everyone about my
so
ability.
confident that no one can stop you, who's going to check me, boo? Why does that matter? They could say it. It could come back to you, and you just be like, relinquish that thought. It doesn't exist.
There is something about Harlow though, and I think we get a little like she does
Nobody
not
does.
like magicians.
No.
And I don't think she knows that Amari doesn't have.
Yeah, that's true. She think at least right now, Amari should be able to withstand it, but she doesn't have her magic yet anymore. But Harlow doesn't know that yet.
Exactly, and so, but she also like doesn't know can not only can Amari withstand her ability, but like can she figure out a way to like counteract it, right? Because the only person that has been able to like keep her in check has been Merlin, but she's also like doesn't the Bureau, they don't know the full extent of what magicians can do, so it makes sense to me.
What is her name?
But also, she should still be bitched.
Fiona. That's the only other person who like she like has put away from being able to like rat her out. And
yeah.
Well, I don't think she ever. Well, no. Yeah, she does know, but then she just scared her at a young age.
Fiona doesn't know, but Fiona can read her intention, so she stays far away.
I think
she's
moved. She's put Fiona in positions where she's not like around her. Like,
yeah,
I just feel like
she's moved in ways to like.
Okay, we should.
Like the whole point was make it shorter.
Wrap up.
The conjecture and theory.
I know. Thank y'all for listening. Join us next week when we discuss chapters 4 through 6. Also, don't forget to tell us your votes for MVP and benched for this episode. The form to vote is in our show notes, so you can just like click it and then put who you want. You can add a reason. You don't have to. You can put your name. You don't have to. Just your votes. And then if you want to join us live, become a BNC baddie. At any paid tier, and then you can join our live recordings on Sundays. We record at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern, and then you can be in the chat and like tell us your thoughts live.
Wizard Team is part of the Black Nerds Create Collective. If you want to keep up with our content, you can check out our website at blacknerdscreate.com. Follow us on Instagram and Tumblr at Wizard Team Pod and at Black Nerds Create. Until next time.